Now, Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to this episode of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on the phone, as always, it is a co-host, Alan Niven. Bonjour, Monsieur Alain. How are you?
I'm good. It's early morning for a rock and roller in Arizona, and I believe we have a wonderful guest on the line with us.
We do.
Who, if she's in Germany, she should just be getting up too.
Well, yes. So, well, yes. But let me talk. We have Doro Pesch, and one of the reasons is on a recent episode, we discussed how she did for the lack of a better word, a drive-in concert at the Car Antenna Arena in Worms, Rhineland-Palatinate, Germany. That's why couldn't you just play Berlin? That would have been so much easier for me to say. But Doro, pleasure to have you on. I really want to discuss this concept. Bonjour, as we say.
Thank you so much. Hi, guys. I'm glad to talk to you. And yeah, it was my first drive-in concert ever. And here we called it Autokino. And it was so awesome. It was so unbelievable. And it really reminded me on our video, All We Are. It looked exactly the same. There were tons of cars, usually black cars, because, you know, the metal fans, they usually buy a black car. And all over like that, like, you know, like great, like, you know, artwork on their car, and, you know, all the metal t-shirts on, and sometimes they hopped on the car and then they were headbanging and singing along and, you know, and celebrating, and it was such a joy. And I didn't know that it would be good, but oh man, now I tell you, you know, I think I could always do that, and since it's not possible to do a normal concert, so I think it is a really good way to still, play live, to see the fans, and and to rock out together.
It's a great one. And just before I throw it over to Alan, I'll just ask you, in terms of performance, there is obviously an energy when people are, you know, slam dancing in the front of the stage or throwing up their fists and. Was this different, or was music? Did the music win the day basically, or was just like, oh well, they're in a car? It's kind of weird, but was it weird or was it great?
It was great, and before I thought, what could I do that everybody feels really connected? And usually I'm a person, I love to go into the crowd, jump into the crowd, you know, let them sing into my microphone and, you know, feel their sweat, you know, on me, and when they're headbanging, their sweaty hair on me. So it was really, really before I thought, oh man, I don't know if I would have a good time. But then I thought about a couple of little games, and, you know, and usually I say, hey, let me hear you scream on the right side. And then I said, hey, let me see, you know, your blinkers on the right side. And then everybody was honking the horn and, you know, showing me the blinker, and, you know, putting on the lights. And then I could really tell they had fun and like singing along. They were singing so loud I could really feel it. And then by the end of the show at All We Are, I walked into the crowd, like, you know, like, I wasn't too close, but close enough that I could see everybody, and I had such a great time, you know, and all these cars, like, it was like, wow, it was so unique, so different, but I loved it, and I didn't expect, you know, such great night, and it was just 2 nights ago, and I definitely want to do some more drive-in shows.
It's hilarious because
it really worked different, but it works well.
Sorry, I can just hear Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden going, let me hear you honk. Honk for me, Brazil.
Yeah, and it's so loud. Oh, God, you know, it was louder than our PA, you know, and probably the neighbors, they didn't like that show. It was the whole night honking the horns and, you know, singing along, and, you know, it was loud and wow, but awesome, yeah.
So, Alan, let me ask you this, Alan. As the former manager of Guns N' Roses and Great White, what do you think of this concept? Had you been put in this situation, would you tell your artists like Doro, hey, go do this, it's a great way to connect with fans, or would you say, oh, come on, this is silly, you got to have a regular show? How do you sort of see it?
Well, the way I see it is I think it was a touch of blonde genius to do this. And being both a fan of drive-in movies and having played at Sturgis, which is the big biker rally every summer up in the Dakotas, where when you play up there, everybody rides in on their bike, and you can imagine the vibe and the content of that audience.
Wow.
Yeah, at the end of the song, if they dig you, Doro, they'll fire up their hogs, and if they really like you, they'll pull their old lady off the pillion seat and throw her on the stage. Yeah. No, I think that's really, really a stroke of genius on your part, and sounds like an awful lot of fun. And, you know, for me, ultimately, all my decisions, you know, end up being personal. Do I like this guitar player? Do I like this singer? Do I like this band? So in that case, my question would be, would I go? And if I could load up, you know, a big old SUV with full of coolers and good food and good friends and who knows what else, yeah, I'd go. I think that would be fun. I'd go at least once to try it out. And if it worked, I'd go again.
Yeah, and we could stream it all over the world for free. We streamed it for free, so everybody could, you know, could have a, you know, a good time and could see it. And yeah, so it was. Yeah,
well, let me ask you about that, Doro. In terms of streaming, do you see a time maybe where instead of going through all the expenses of tour bus and flights and visas and all that, where you just say, listen, for the whatever 30th anniversary special album, whatever, we're going to set up in Berlin, we're going to broadcast it around the world, it'll be a one-night event, you all pay $10. Is that something that would interest you down the road, or is there still something about you have to tour, you have to get sweaty, you have to get dirty, you know?
Oh, yeah, Mitch, and no doubt about it, like the real deal touring, tour bus, the fans, you know, like being really close with the fans and having a great time. I think that's the best. But, you know, like in these Corona times where you have to find something, you know, to keep it going, and, you know, that was actually great. But my first choice would be like, you know, going on tour like we did it, and I hope these times can come back. Maybe they will find a vaccine where it's not dangerous anymore to get close and together. So, but the other thing, maybe like a big concert and streaming, that would be the next best thing. But the real touring and the experience, nothing can beat that, of course.
Of course not. Just before they gave you permission to do this concert, what were the public health officials like? Did you have to go through all kinds of red tape, or was it like, she's going to be on the stage, she'll be in a car, they're fine? Or was there really a lot of checking and a lot of temperatures? And, you know, how did the German government react?
There were many people who got tested already, so my whole road crew, they had like a test, and they were good, and it was negative, so it was good. And I think many fans, they had like, they had protection on, and and I don't know, when the fans came in, I think they didn't really check, because everybody was in their car, and then you have to hold the ticket, you know, on your window. You have to keep the windows closed, and then somebody checks it. So I don't know, but I think it was a tough thing to even get permission to do it. Many people helped us to put on that show, and there was a radio station which, you know, were awesome, and they promoted the show, and, you know, they had us putting on that show, and so it was kind of organized, and and everybody was like having, you know, at least like 2-3 meters distance between them. All the cars, they had to be in a certain place, so there was a lot of security there, and, you know, and you couldn't really get too close to all the other fans, and I think it was I think it was okay so far.
Well, I think it was great. I mean, the video stuff on YouTube has just been fun as heck to watch. And I'll ask you this before we move on over to something else, but you've got a couple more. The next one, I believe, is June 28th. Are you planning to sort of do a tour of drive-ins in Germany? And not to sound facetious, but I mean, that's, again, what it's going to be, right? How many more?
Yeah, actually, Yeah, because some people saw this show like this last few days, and and so we got 3 more auto kino shows, drive-in shows, and yeah, the next one will be the 28th of June in Bottrop. That's actually close to where I was born, so it's pretty tough city. And then in Stuttgart, that will be the 24th of July. And then another one, so people were interested, and I guess, you can only do it in the summer because it is open air, and and the stage, has to be, good, like a good size. So some of the autokinos, they didn't have a stage, so you're dependent that it's a good place. But yeah, a couple of more shows, I would love to do, and then I hope in September, October that we can continue the tour. That would be awesome, but I don't know yet. Nobody said anything, so I'm still working in the studio at night, working on a new record. There's a new single coming out, which is called Brick Wall. That's coming out on the 26th of June. So so a couple of live things, but we're hoping for
Well, I'm looking forward.
Normal time.
I'm looking forward to all of this. And yeah, it's a good idea to do it in the summer because I do not see myself in January in Montreal at minus 30 Celsius sitting watching anything. in the car.
No. Being stuck in your car, I think that's not as much fun. But when people can go out or jump on their hood of the car, that's pretty good. And there's still enough distance between the fans and the car, so I think it was awesome. And,
it was.
Yeah, and on stage we kept our distances too, which we usually don't do, but we try to. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I agree. And Alan, just before we head over to our next guest, any last words, Alan?
Well, I'm a bit of a wise guy. I was going to jokingly suggest to Doro that she might think of working up a version of Life in the Fast Lane to perform in such a situation. I think it might go over well.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Yeah. Let me think about it.
Or maybe even I Can't Drive 55.
A really good, powerful, heavy version of it, Doro.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I will check out the song after we're hanging up. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Life in the Fast Lane,
it's got that big chorus hook on there that I think you could absolutely own.
Yeah. That's Alan. These were great last words. I will check it out. Yeah.
There you go. And just real quick, you did say you're working on a new album. When does the complete album come out?
Yeah, actually, I think it will take a couple of more months, so next year. And we want to do a best of record, which should come out in September, October. It's called Magic Diamonds, and it's a best of where we recorded like all these great songs, and I'm just mixing some live songs, which is so awesome to hear, and it really makes you want to play, the real deal again. So that's coming out like before, Christmas time in autumn. And the new record, I think next year, sometimes it takes a little bit longer because we can't be all together in one studio. So it's a little different now in this day and age. But, but next year you can expect new songs. And so far, the first single, it's called Brick Wall. The video just got edited today, and it's coming out on 26th of June. I think it's pretty cool. So I'm hopeful that everything works out well. But I'm a live person. To me, live and being on tour, that's the best part. So I can't wait for new songs to perform and
absolutely
tour again.
And in 2013, there you did the re-recorded version of Only You for that Kiss tribute. That was such a great version. So feel free to keep using that. I love it.
Kiss, I'm glad you liked it. And one time Gene Simmons produced our record. It was in 1990, unforgettable times. And I'm still a big Kiss fan, and I love these, especially the songs of Kiss Alive 2. That's still my favorite record of all times. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know how much Alan loves Kiss, so he loves hearing these stories, right, Alan?
Absolutely. Doro, a real pleasure to meet you, if only over on the phone. And well done on a brilliant idea.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alan. Thank you so much, Mitch, for having me on your show again. It's always great to talk to you guys. And I wish you all the best. And stay healthy, stay happy, and hopefully talk soon or see you very soon live.
Absolutely. And we will be right back with Kevin Cronin of REO Speedwagon. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Here's Paul Stanley to tell you why he doesn't want to shake your hand.
Some people might have a little rock and roll pneumonia.
Not even cold gin will kill those germs. This is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
We are speaking with REO Speedwagon's Kevin Cronin, as we say in Montreal. Bonjour, Kevin. How are you?
Bonjour, Mitch. I'm doing fine. Thank you. How are you today?
Good. I'm doing great. And I have to say this, and I say it all the time, but the last time we did an interview together, you couldn't have been nicer. You were absolutely wonderful. So thank you for that. But let's...
I appreciate that. You know, every once in a while...
every once in a while you're nice, right?
Even a blind sow. What's that?
I said every once in a while you're nice. No, I'm kidding. But
Exactly. You caught me on a good day.
I catch you on a good, and the audio sounds great today too. So let's quickly go over the recent news. We of course have REO Speedwagon that appears in the Netflix crime drama Ozark, and then the band of course ends up recharting on Billboard thanks to it. How important is it for the band to have an outlet of these kind of shows or commercials that brings the awareness to the music to maybe fans that are too young or forgot or so on and so forth?
Yeah, I mean it's just awesome. I mean our experience with Ozark could not have been better. They treated us great when we were on set. The crew, the cast, and of course Jason Bateman. It kind of starts at the top in most organizations, and Jason is just down to earth, just a good dude. We hung out with him, and you can tell that it's like I say, it starts at the top. So that was great. And then so here's the thing. So I had a couple of lines in the episode. So they handed me the script for the scene that we were filming, and at the top of the script it says Kevin Cronin was here, as the title of the episode, and I just thought they were just trying to make me feel welcome. I thought it was really cool that they did that, and but then my family and I are sitting on the sofa in the TV room when the season 3 dropped, and it came down, and they actually kept that as the name of the episode. And it was one of the rare moments where both my wife and all 3 of our children thought I was cool at the same time. And that is a rare occurrence, Mitch, I will tell you that. So that was pretty cool. And, the way that they treated us, they just shouted us out so many times over the first few episodes of the season. It was just all in all, just a great experience.
Yeah, and also a great marketing tool. Let's be honest about it. It's great for business. You did mention the children, and I do want to get back to Ozark, but you mentioned the children. You of course had Holly sing with you on stage. You do Cam Cronin. She sometimes appears in the videos. Talk to me a little bit about that as a father. We know that through the 80s they were at the shows and they hung backstage, and there's pictures of you with them at 3 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old. But what does it mean now to have them stand on stage and sing a song with you and do Camp Cronin with you and be part of it?
Well, it's just to a certain degree unexpected, but also it's very inspiring and fulfilling at the same time. When the way that my wife Lisa and I, mostly her, but the way we brought up Holly, Josh, and Shane was that we, there were basketballs, baseballs, guitars, drums, art supplies, everything that they books, anything that they might have wanted to, be inspired by themselves. It was all around the house. And, I didn't want to be that guy who, shoves music into their kids to fulfill some need in yourself type of thing. We just wanted to let them go where life took them. And Holly ended up being very involved in musical theater and choir in high school. And Josh and Shane, our twin boys, they were basketball stars. They were each MVPs of their high school basketball team. And but Holly enlisted them to join the choir to try to get more boys to follow suit. She figured having a couple of jocks in the choir would help make the choir have a little more swagger. And but what happened was that Shane started getting a couple of solos as a member of the choir, and saw that he was getting just as much attention for singing, if not more, than he got as a basketball player. And he didn't have to, spend 3 hours a day sweating in the gym. And so little by little, both Josh and Shane kind of, they just picked up guitars and keyboards. And so now their band, which is called Sir Please, they've opened for REO a number of times over the past couple of years. They're writing beautiful songs. Shane's voice is I should be so lucky to be able to sing like him. It's just amazing, this instrument that he has. Josh is a great bass player and songwriter. And and Holly is working for CAA as an assistant to an agent there. And so they're all in the music world. It just kind of worked out that way. It wasn't by design, but it's nice to see the kids kind of keeping the family business alive.
Yeah, it really is. And I'll ask you this about Sir Please. When bands start out, and REO did the same thing, you make some great decisions, but you also make some incredibly awful decisions. You have this experience, the 30, 40, 50 years. Do you look at Sir Please and go, okay, they have to make these mistakes to learn? Or do you get so involved where you go, hey guys, I've been there, right? How do you handle that?
It's, yep. Mitch, you just, you hit the nail on the head there, man. Trying to walk that tightrope is something that, it's important to me to try to stay on the right side of that line, of being helpful and sharing my experience, but also allowing them to fall when they need to. As in most things in life, sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't. But all in all, I feel really fortunate to have honest, soulful relationships with all three of Lisa's and my children. And, to have Holly come on and do our live stream, which we do on Saturdays here at Camp Cronin, that's just, I couldn't be happier as a dad to share that little spotlight with her, because Holly's she's just so relaxed. She's so natural in front of the camera. She was with me when we filmed the movie version of Rock of Ages. And we were on set for about 12 hours. And during one of the breaks, Tom Cruise walked over to kind of just introduce himself and, thank me for my participation in the whole Rock of Ages phenomenon. And Holly was there. I snuck her in as an extra. And I think she was 15 at the time. And you can imagine that a 15-year-old young lady would be maybe a little flustered to meet Tom Cruise. And Holly was just like you see her, on my little show here. That's just how she is. And she just has an innate ability to handle herself well. And, so that's I mean, that's really the most rewarding thing, is just seeing that all three of these kids are good young people. We were out, I joined them and about 1,500 other young people just yesterday here in Thousand Oaks. We marched from the promenade, which is kind of the main shopping area, about 2 miles to the Civic Center, and I felt so inspired to just be in the presence of all these young people. It was totally peaceful, thankfully, but very passionate. And so, my children kind of inspire me. I looked at this demonstration, and it reminded me of when I was in college, and we were demonstrating against the war in Vietnam, for civil rights, for women's rights, and so it was, again, just brought me back to those days and inspired me. And I was probably I was perhaps the elder statesman, to put it mildly, in this march, and it felt so good. And I feel like everyone needs to use the voice they have to speak their mind, and try to affect change for the better in this great country of ours.
Yeah, and that time that you described in Vietnam and stuff, it has defined the U.S. for the last 50 years, and I think we're in a moment now that is certainly going to define the next 50. That's my perception. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I think we're living history. I mean, our kids will study this.
I think we are. I mean, as if a worldwide pandemic isn't enough to deal with, then you add the situation up in Minneapolis, which is so unfortunate. It's so disturbing to me what happened there, and it's happened so many times, and I just feel like enough is enough. Something has, it can't just be, okay, a couple of protests for a few days and then it's forgotten. This really there has to be some sort of systemic change. And, that's what America's about. America is about, hey, we all, like we were saying earlier, we all are flawed. We're human beings. We all make mistakes. We all do things that we shouldn't have done. And then there needs to be consequences for those type of situations. And that's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's the only way to get better, is to learn from our mistakes. And, America has the freedom to demonstrate and to protest. And, that the sad thing is that when there are people who take advantage of a peaceful protest and, start trouble and start, looting stores that, for selfish purposes, and that just spoils the whole idea that the protest is based on, and that saddens me, because then it's just like, okay, now there's violence on both sides, but to me, the police department has to be the good guys, so that to me, and we'll never know as a white American, I can never fully know what it feels like to be a person of color in America, and so I just have to trust and just trust my gut and listen to people who do understand it on a personal level, and just get behind them, because there's injustices always happen, but they need to be remedied, and so hopefully that's what's happening. Hopefully this is a healing time. Hopefully change will come, and we'll all get through this. As a great mentor of mine and a kind of a guru of mine told me years and years ago, when I was going through a rough period, and just personally, he goes, things are going to get better. Just keep saying that to yourself, and it's true. Things are going to get better, and they will. And I have faith in the American people, and so we'll just keep moving forward.
Yeah, I believe that too. I think we are approaching the light at the end of the tunnel, and we're going to get there. I think. I don't want to get away from a serious topic, but I do want to just quickly get back to your Sons and Sir Please. From your perception, the music industry has changed. Back in the day, you had a couple of big managers and agents, and you got on tours, and you had the cycle, and you sold albums, and it was reasonably simple. Now, with the attention divided through YouTube and Spotify and Apple Music, and it's all over the place, do you think they have the same opportunity to have a career like REO Speedwagon? Or is it really more of, hey guys, you're going to be playing these small gigs in bars for a while, get used to it, but go to university and get an accounting degree just as a back? Like, is it set up for them to have a shot?
That's a really good question, Mitch. And I wish I knew the answer. I can tell you that we made a deal with our boys that they would both go to college, and they both are. They're both remotely going to college, but we really strongly encourage them to get a college degree, and they're both Shane is in the pop music program here at USC as a vocalist, and Josh is in the music industry program. So they're both in music, in school. So it kind of works in tandem with them being in their band, and they've got a setup here in my old studio where they rehearse and they write, and they've written some amazing songs. I'm so proud of them. They're really, and I'm a pretty tough critic when it comes to songs, and it's not like every song that they write I think is great, but there are a bunch of good songs. And my advice to them, and I think they're heeding it, is to use this time to write and to be creative. They're 20 years old. This is the heart of their creative, the most creative time of their life, potentially. And so I just encourage them to harness that creativity, keep writing, and because to me, songs are power. If you've got songs that people connect with, then good things will happen, and that I firmly believe. So they've got some great songs, and we'll see it. I would love it if they could make a career out of playing music, because they've got the talent. What you're bringing up is just the atmosphere in the world of music, and what it will look like in the near future, in the wake of this pandemic. I have no idea what live music is going to look like. Hopefully things will get back to where they were, but no one really knows. And so in the meantime, we just keep our creative juices flowing. We put one foot in front of the other, and we see what happens. But yeah, they will. Pardon me. They will hopefully get their degree, and so if they need that degree, they'll have it. And so we're trying to keep that balance. So far, so good.
Keep them focused, and at some point, if they become successful, you can retire from REO and become a tour manager, because that's easy. Just ride the bus. Right?
Well, what happened was about 2 years ago, I was emailing someone. I can't remember exactly who it was, and I said in the email that I was kind of their acting temporary manager. And then I realized that that would equal ATM if you put the initials on it. So I deemed myself ATM management, and I was the ATM in more than one sense of the word, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I do indeed, and I can appreciate that. Let me just bring it right back to the music here for a second, because we've actually spoken about everything except REO Speedwagon in a sense, but the song Time for Me to Fly was, of course, the one used in Ozark, but it comes from the you can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. My first question on that is this is the first album where you stood in as co-producer. Talk to me about that decision because as a fan, I've always thought, boy, it's nice to have an extra set of ears in the studio, a Bob Rock, a Rick Rubin, so on and so forth. Was that a difficult decision to say, okay, listen, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to be making some decisions? Was it the right choice? Was it a scary choice? Just talk to me about that decision.
Well, Mitch, the truth is we had, up until that point, we had always been assigned a producer through Epic Records, and Epic Records was so supportive of us. I mean, they, High Infidelity was our 11th album. They stuck with us through 10 albums, to finally kind of, hit the jackpot with High Infidelity. But up until the Tuna record, we just felt like we would make these records with well-known producers, John Stronach, who produced Joe Walsh, and Bill Halverson, who produced My Heroes, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. But for some reason, those early albums never really, in our minds, captured the power and the excitement of a live REO Speedwagon show. REO TWO kind of did, but we kind of produced that. We had a producer, but he kind of never showed up. So when it came time to do the Tuna album, we felt like we had some really strong songs. And honestly, I didn't want to risk having an outside producer come in and spoil them for us. So Gary and I went to New York, sat down with the president of Epic Records, and we made a deal where Rana Luxemburg, who was the president of Epic at the time, suggested that we bring John Boylan, who had just produced the great Boston debut record, and that he not be a co-producer. He'd be more of an executive producer. They just wanted to kind of hedge their bet a little bit. They wanted to let Gary and I produce, but they wanted John Boylan in the room, and they wanted Paul Grupp to engineer. And I thought that was freaking amazing. It's like, okay, so you're telling me that Gary and I get to produce the album. We've got a great engineer in Paul Grupp, and if we run into trouble, we got John Boylan sitting on the sofa in the back of the room. It's like, bingo, let's go, So we kind of had the best of both worlds, and as a result, we had the freedom to really experiment on the Tuna Fish record. And I write, the story of the Tuna Fish record is pretty. There's a lot happened, with that transition from producers to self-production, and I write a lot about it. And I'll plug the book that I've been writing for the past 3.5 years, which not coincidentally is entitled "Roll with the Changes: My Life Within and Without REO Speedwagon," and I talk about really what the inside story of how the Tuna Fish record came to be, and it's one of my favorite REO Speedwagon records, and the experience was not without its drama, but ultimately, I'm proud of how that record turned out.
As you should be. I mean, it's a great record. Now, I'm going to ask you one more question here, and then I'm going to move over to the Led Zeppelin stuff, just because we're going to run out of time. But you are right when you say that the record company, I should say, stuck with you for 9, 10 albums before. Why do you think that is? Because most bands, back in those days, you had sort of 3 shots. The first one, the sophomore, and then by the third one, you were either in the money or you're out on the street. Now we're down to like 1 album, 1 song for most people. Why do you think they didn't just say, hey, boys, it ain't working, out? Why did they stick with you?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of reasons. One of them was that we were a hardworking band. We played probably between 250 and 300 shows a year. So Epic knew that we were out there beating the bushes. I mean, we played every small town. The people in small town America really got behind us from day one. And so the record company knew that they could count on us to go out there and and play the songs that were recorded on our most recent record. So they had that. We also had an amazing manager in Irving Azoff. Irving Azoff, who now is basically runs the world as far as we're concerned. But REO Speedwagon and Danny Fogelberg were Irving's first clients. And, Irving was from downstate Illinois, which is where he was a student at the University of Illinois, which is where REO Speedwagon started. And us and Danny were his first clients, and he was just he's to this day is such an advocate of his artists, and he will fight to the end for the betterment of the artists that he represents. So he was in our corner, and I think every record did just enough to kind of break even. So it was like Epic was like, well, we didn't really make anything off this last REO record, but we didn't lose anything either. Well, might as well give him another shot, So it was kind of, I think those three things that there was, we were hard, we were perseverant. We believed that we could do it, because in a couple of little pockets of America, in the St. Louis area, the Kansas City area, the Indianapolis area, basically, in 1977, we headlined Busch Stadium in St. Louis and sold it out. Same thing in Kansas City. We had, Fleetwood Mac opening for us, and then of course, a week later we'd go to Denver and play a bar. But we always kind of thought, if we can have this kind of an impact, if our music can take root and become part of people's lives in these areas, why not everywhere? And that kind of kept us going. And, eventually I think Epic, their faith in us paid off. And so it kind of pretty much a happy ending as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I could ask you a whole bunch of other questions, but I'll move over to the questions for the other show sent in by producer Joseph Cristiano. These are the ones for the. By the way, thank you for the interview. That was absolutely fantastic. Even though I still have about 25 more questions, but real quick, this is for the Led Zeppelin show here. The first question that Joseph wants me to have you answer is: were you or the band influenced by Led Zeppelin in any way, shape, or form?
Well, you know what? My first band in Chicago when I was in high school was a band called Fuchsia. And, we had a few original songs, and we did, a lot of covers as well. And we covered Buffalo Springfield, we covered Moby Grape. So we were kind of a folk rock kind of thing. We covered the Byrds. But when Led Zeppelin came out and we heard Whole Lotta Love, we were like, it blew our minds. We were like, whoa, what is this? This was just something totally outside of our wheelhouse, but we really liked it. And so we covered Whole Lotta Love. And I think we did it justice. And so it kind of brought, Led Zeppelin brought a little more of a blues rock kind of influence into my consciousness. And I think it, in a way, it prepared me for when I got the call from Gary Richrath and suddenly found myself as the lead singer of a hard rock band, which was not what I saw in the cards for myself at all. I kind of saw myself, when I heard Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, I was like, oh, that's the band that I thought I was going to be in, but, you just never know in life. You just got to be ready for what comes your way. So
you got to roll with the changes.
I have Led Zeppelin to,
right?
Pardon me?
You said you got to roll with the changes.
You do, indeed.
Okay, let's real quick here. What other questions here? Have you ever seen the band Led Zeppelin live?
I have never seen them live. I kind of regret that because they did play Chicago a few times, back in the day, but I never made it out to see them. I did have an interesting conversation, regarding Jimmy Page. I was touring Europe with a symphony orchestra, and it was David Coverdale, obviously from Deep Purple, myself, and Mike Reno from Loverboy, and we would sing, a few of our big hits, fronting this huge symphony orchestra and this kind of hard rock rhythm section, and I was dying to sit down with David and just kind of, I just wanted to talk to him about the British invasion and what his impression of it was, and then in talking to him, I realized he was really curious to see what my impression was, and I was talking about my favorite bands, and of course the Beatles were first, but then there was the Dave Clark Five, and there was the Animals, and there was the Kinks, and I was like, man, when that first Kinks record came out, and I heard that guitar, and You Really Got Me, I was like, oh my God, that was a sound like I'd never heard before, and I was like, Dave Davies is just such an amazing guitar player, and Coverdale starts laughing. He goes, oh mate, that was not Dave Davies on guitar, that was Jimmy Page. He's like, pretty much every British invasion record that you heard, it was Jimmy playing the guitar. He was the top studio cat in England at the time. So I was being influenced by, what would become Led Zeppelin long before Led Zeppelin even existed.
Yep, absolutely. And I'll finish with this. The last question they had is, do you have a favorite Led Zeppelin album and or song?
Well, I would have to say that Whole Lotta Love is my favorite Led Zeppelin song. It was the first song I ever heard by them, and like I say, I used to perform it. I've had the pleasure of, running into Robert Plant at a party up in Sonoma a few years back, and he was a total gentleman, totally cool dude, down to earth, not no rock star, stuff, just like hanging with the guy, and I've been able to sing in front of Jason Bonham on drums, with Sammy Hagar, and so I've kind of been surrounded by Led Zeppelin's music in one way or another over the years. If you play in a rock band, the influence of Led Zeppelin is just inescapable, and it's a treasure because they really blazed the trail for rock and roll as far as bands who rocked but also wrote songs that were just incredibly written and performed. So yeah, there you have it.
There you have it. And thank you. So one interview, two shows, not a bad deal. Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure. And I will.
Yeah, I'll take that any day.
Any day. And I will forever remember that Malone, New York show. I got to introduce the band, and everybody in the crew, and Tom are just super, super nice. So merci beaucoup for that. Thank you.
Well, you got it. I mean, I'll tell you, we're blessed to have a great, not only just a great group of guys, the five of us in the band, but our whole, you experienced it. You experienced our crew. You experienced our management. We're all brothers, and we're all in this thing together. And that's the way REO Speedwagon has always operated. And, one of the toughest things about, all the shows being postponed and canceled, and the touring year of 2020, I'm always optimistic, but you got to be realistic too. And it doesn't look like there's going to be much going on. I mean, when the Def Leppard Motley Crue thing got postponed till next year, and so the hardest thing about it is trying to take care of our crew, trying to take care of the people that work in our management office, and just trying to keep the whole ship afloat. And but we're doing it. We're working hard every day on behalf of our organization, and that's really what everybody has to do. If you we're kind of a small business if you look at it that way, and so there are ways to to take care of your people. You gotta dig in, and it's hard work. And but we will come out of this. We will make it through this. It's not going to be easy. There's many challenges ahead, as we spoke about earlier, but I do firmly believe that things are going to get better.
Oh, I do too. Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure.
All right, Mitch. Look forward to talking to you again, man. It's anytime. I'm it's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. And I'm trying to respect the time, but thank you. Merci. À la prochaine. See you next time.
Okay. All right.
Cheers. Bye now.
This has been Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. For more exclusive content and interviews, subscribe on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, and many more. Follow Mitch on all the socials, especially Twitter, @Mitch Lafon, and on Instagram, @Mitch_Lafon. Get your Mitch merch now at loudtracks.com/Mitch.